Is it your job to end deceit? I don't think so. I think there will always be scams. What if the scam is our history? It's no different. It's just your job to recognize you've been had and restructure your life in accordance with your new understanding. Thanks for being here. God bless and welcome. Okay, what if I shared a book that doesn't exist yet? How fresh. So I think that's what I'll do. This next book that David and I are working on focuses on a map, a few, but one in specific, and it asks a lot of questions. The way I do. Ultimately, I don't know. I've said in past videos I don't really believe in Rome the way we're sold Rome. And if we were to believe in Rome, then we must accept that Rome is found everywhere, all throughout the realm, corner to corner. But what if Rome, or we'll just call it Rome, never fell? And here, even in history, we're told after the fall of Rome, the Byzantine Empire continues to flourish, which, if we're just looking at the architectural ruins, appear to be the same people. This region flourished because of its strategic location. Here we have a source, Heron, that says the Eastern Roman Empire could be seen as a continuation of the Roman Empire during the Middle Ages. And we're just dissecting the mainstream history initially here. I do believe that this is a similar people, like I've said, found everywhere. Even before the Roman Empire, we have the Etruscans, same types of ruins, and a more ridiculous narrative given to these people. And so this kind of introduces one to the idea that even with the mainstream accounts, we see a movement east from the Roman Empire, proposing these ruins can be found all the way as far east as North America. Now we can approach this from so many angles. If we're using this account, we move east. If we're considering that the original inhabitants of this glorious realm came from the North Polar regions, the continents surrounding Mount Meru, then everyone came south and spread. And we have accounts, more primitive accounts, of Vikings, but Vikings could be referring to 6 kings or 6 kingdoms, a piece of the story masked to suit their narrative. So here, when looking at this map, and this map is called Tartaria Sive Magni Chami Imperium. It's kind of a mouthful, and we'll get into the translation. And that's what's going to be cool about this video and this chapter in our next book. With all this map and its clues being translated, we actually get a good story that one would not get at a simple glance of the map. So here on the map, what we see is the Regnum Primary Magni Cani, like Canaan. Translated to English is the Kingdom of the Great Primary Dog. I made a video some years back about different races, and this was one of them, the Cynocephaly. Pretty much human from the head down, and otherwise having the head of a dog. And here we see the kingdom of the great primary dog. Awesome. We see castles over here, castle down here, one over here. Here we can see St. Augustine in the year 426 saying, "What shall I say of the Cynocephaly, whose dog-like head and barking proclaim them beasts rather than men? Herodotus, an ancient Greek historian, makes mention of dog-headed beings in his work Histories. In this book, Book 4, he describes the Cynocephaly in the context of Libya. He says, the eastern part of Libya, which is inhabited by wandering tribes, is low-lying and sandy as far as the Triton River. But the land west of this Towards the south is a wild and stony plateau, quite unlike the rest. Sounds like a melted city. Here too, as men say, are the dog-faced creatures, not possessing human speech but barking instead, and as clothing they wear the skins of animals. So very interesting, seeming like they're in a reset state even by this time, and yet hanging out perhaps around their old city. And we see this, the old world being rendered into barbarians out of necessity, post-reset. So here we see another part of the map. We can see a little chunk of the Great Wall down here disappearing into the mountains. And we also see some tombs, some pyramids over here. We see what will also be translated as Gog and Magog. And of course, little castles and kingdoms everywhere. We also see some mythical beasts over here. And when we translate the verbiage under these pyramids, it says the tombs of the Tartar kings. That's what it says. Very exciting map, and very exciting that we found a historical place where these dog-headed civilized creatures exist. The kingdom of the great primary dog, which could also translate to the primary kingdom of the great cynocephaly. Here we can see a dog head, Saint Christopher. In the Bible, Saint Christopher is one of these creatures, a humanoid dog. He's also the saint of travelers, giving blessings to travelers, leading the way, similar to a dog today. And very interesting that the Bible and the kingdom of Magog is now up here in Tartary region. Another good reason to obscure the history in this region. And here we see in Revelations discussions of Magog. And this is supposed to be a prophecy, and yet we see it on a map. Again, lending to the idea that this prophecy is actually history, that this event has come to pass, or is just about to pass through the end of the cycle. And now in this region we do see great desert, as if this city or kingdom was thrown into a lake of burning sulfur. And there's more information. There's so much, actually. We get a little clue as to who may have turned the cities into deserts. Unbelievable. I can't wait to share that in a minute. And do we see dog heads? Yes. In the Egyptian, we have Anubis, a dog head. And these are supposed to be more like gods, but nevertheless, what do we know about the history of these? We know what the mainstream has told us. And this book shares that, but asks us to have a critical eye, looking at the bigger picture. So here we go. We have another part on the map, just west of the primary kingdom of the dog, and it says Desertum de Belgian Magnum Areno Fum et Fertile. Anyway, it's translated as the desert that the Belgians turned into a great sandy, smoky, and sterile land. Wow. So clearly a different Belgian, not like the waffle Belgian. No, these Belgians are turning cities into great sandy, smoky, and sterile land. A desert. And here we can see that region. So very important. We have an indication that a people turned a land into a desert. I think that's the most important takeaway. Here we have an area surrounded with castles and kingdoms, trees, rivers, and then this wasteland created by the Belgians. We have the kingdom of the dog, and it was said that the cynocephaly would help travelers through this region. Here in this map, we see a castle city, Gimel Tengun, and underneath Gimel, we see these words, and they translate into primary fields of Tangut, a city where in the colony there are partly Christians and partly Muslims. There we go. North of the Great Wall of China, we have Christians, Muslims, and a city of dog people. Now again, at the beginning of the chapter, I didn't get into it, and certainly at the beginning of the book, we point out the obvious. These rivers and mountains and everything are charted to perfection, and we must ask the question, are these just fantasies? Academia will tell us in one breath that these are respected map makers that did an excellent job of charting the coastline wastelands and the land's interior, but then want to tell us that everything else is myth. And this book is simply helping to facilitate this research. If we can see what is written on these maps, we can clearly have a better understanding of what was going on in our realm not too long ago. So here, we're going to translate this part under the city of Tangun. From this kingdom, they want all the rhubarb to be brought to the Europeans. So, not from this city, as we saw up here. Now we're talking about a kingdom. From this kingdom, all of the rhubarb. So this is an industrial, agricultural kingdom / city, Tangun, along the river. And all the rhubarb is to be brought to Europe. I feel like we don't do rhubarb that much. I wish I had some growing right now. Make some rhubarb pie. Here again, in the Lop Desert, as we see here, we see the mythical creatures, and it tells us in the Lop Desert, because of the Belgians, people are believed to be led astray by strange illusions and diabolical creatures. So I don't know, perhaps they're having some kind of hallucinations, or perhaps there really are these creatures out there. We'll also discuss the Jinn. This is kind of their stomping grounds as well. And I think a lot of changes occurred or do occur during the resets. Physical changes with the physiology of all creatures, a type of alchemical process, a byproduct of the rare conditions that are created during these events. And we see all the religions at the time seemingly coexisting on these maps. The Silk Road is probably not yet the wasteland it is today, but there's a lot going on. Rhubarb is being sold. A people called the Belgians are turning cities into deserts. Here again, the Lop Desert was also said to be home of the Jinn, supernatural beings that could assist or harm humans. Again, we see the Great Wall of China in this time period. I mean, how advanced is this time period? Kingdoms of rhubarb and great walls spanning across mountain ranges. Here we see a translation. Under the wall here, we have writing that says, "A wall of 400 leagues built between the ridges of the mountains by the king of China against the invasions of the Tartars on this side." So here we go. The takeaway is dating back to the 1300s. We have reference to Tartary in building impossible walls in impossible places. The wall is 13,000 miles. 13,000. I'm not sure what it is from coast to coast in America. I think it's only like 3 or 4 or 5,000. Here we have 13,000 miles of brick and stone, mortar, a feat involving millions of laborers, including soldiers, peasants, and prisoners. There we go. Of course, who else in their right mind could they tell us, go out and work on this remote wall? What are you going to eat, rabbit? And there's so much more. But here I just wanted to end this segment before jumping into a part 2 and show the Mercator projection versus the true size of the countries. Now I can't verify this without flying up above myself, and I think this is a byproduct of simply stretching the map, and it is. That's what they tell us, because in no way is it shaped like this. In my opinion, it would resemble the United Nations map more than anything else, and I actually believe there's more land than we're even shown, but for now I'll leave it there. Okay, part 2, and then I'll feed beasts. The chickens have already been fed. This is something that David sent to me some time back, and it's a little slice of the David Rumsey map. Here, the David Rumsey map, as we can see up here. And the map is like 9 feet, and this guy, Urbano Monti, born in Milan in the year of 1544. 1544, he's born, and shortly thereafter makes a map of the entire realm. Shouldn't we have Urbano Monti Day? Really impressive detail on the outer continents, which today we would be told are icy shelves. Nothing of interest, just move on. And here, Urbano, perhaps the original urban planner, is pumping this baby out. And it's so big, you have to zoom into the sections. They have them all scanned in. We also see the North Pole and some other little land masses. Pointy ones. So I trust Urbano right off the get-go, showing us the inner and outer realms, a prerequisite for trust. And this is to give you a look at what we see everywhere. Castles, cities, charted coastlines, and rivers. Everywhere. Unbelievable. Here's a little look at just a slice, and the whole realm is filled with kingdoms, as we are constantly finding evidence of. And anyway, here what we have is Japon. Japon in French today is how you say Japan, but maybe it's spelled with a J. So here Urbano has given us Japon Isola, Japan Island, I'm sure. And we see all of these kingdoms, and then we see a super kingdom here. Just super. Clearly the artist wanted to depict this kingdom was bigger than most of them. Most of them except for this one down here by the lake. This one is massive. And here on this website, they're only showing us a little slice. But off to the left-hand corner of Japan here, we see this chaos. And what is this chaos? Again, this map is so huge you could spend years dissecting it. It's the whole realm, plus parts we know nothing about. But anyway, back to the focus of this chaos down here, off of the coast of Japan. We see a sun or some kind of portal shooting projectiles at this island. This island is called Le Queen Island. Let's copy this and paste it and see what they tell us about the Le Queen Islands. A bunch of cartoons, and I think that's appropriate. This island seems to have been turned into cartoons. And look at the ships down here. Are these really sails? Or is this tech? Here we see some sort of little cabin, and maybe men did not man these oars. Maybe they were used as steering, or maybe they were part of the tech. But anyway, this is old Japan. Fully built out Japan. Castles and kingdoms everywhere. And not far away, a little reset is occurring. And Urbano felt it important to depict this. Here it looks like something's been penciled in after. It looks like it says Shin or China, maybe? Afterthought. But it's no different over here. Same kingdoms, castles, and cities. And the same map, again, as we showed in our book, Evidence of the Old World. There is civilization in San Francisco in the same time period. And I think just as we discovered in part 1 of this video, I think all maps are telling a very similar story. And what we are taught is fantasy may actually be reality. And equally, the reality we're fed may perhaps be the actual fantasy. So I think I'll leave it there for today. I hope you've enjoyed. Do have a blessed day. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. And I really think this life is some sort of test, similar to the book of Job, where two greater beings are essentially placing a bet on a person, and more importantly, the actions of the person. They're seeing if they could break his spirit. And whether you believe in this story or not, I think it's true with all of us. Life, very early on, will try to break our childhood spirit. And it's very confusing. It comes from what seems like the best intentions. And later on in life, it will be everything else. Passerbys, strangers, figures in positions of so-called authority. Everything trying to break your spirit and your will. And I think nothing else matters. That's why in the book of Job, he lost everything except that in which the wager was placed against. And I mentioned in the comments of my last video a little story, a Taoist story of the Bodhidharma, sometimes called Damo, and he was said to have faced the cave wall for 7 years before discovering the secret to immortality or enlightenment. And I consider this story as much as I consider the book of Job, the idea of the Taoist facing the wall. Essentially, facing the wall is akin to facing within. It's really all you're left with. Unless you're focusing on the contours of the wall, turning it into more of a mind exercise than it's intended to be, at least in this story. And honestly, I'm going through such a phase right now of staring at the wall. I can't really express to you exactly what this means to me, except for that idea of facing within. It's not that I'm not aware of what's going on without. I'm just not investing my time and energy in those things. The wheel of samsara. So for what it's worth, I'll just leave it there. Thanks for being here.